morning, everybody. So today I'm going to talk about borders and fillers. So first off, you always want to make sure your tools and your work surface and you are clean. So I'm going to finish cleaning off my fingers just with a little raggedy piece of paper towel. But if you have, something like this where you used your cane and you went all the way around and either you maybe have some gapping or you just want to add another color or an extra fancy element to it, then we could add a border, and there's all kinds of different things that you could do, but there are some basic ones that I'm going to show you. And then you can use those same basic ideas to add in any filler areas that you need. So if there's like gapping in between some of your areas, or you just had cane that would fill the corners, you could fill those in between areas with different kind of stuff. So I just took a color that I thought looked nice with the colors that I already have, and I rolled out a nice long skinny coil just like I have before. So now I want to have a little green border all the way around. And if you can roll it all in one go, great. If not, it's not even a big deal because I'm going to cut it anyway. So if you can make it go as long as one side to another side, that's going to be just fine. Okay. So I'm going to use my needle tool. I'm going to lay my little border where I think I want it to go. And then I'm going to cut off the extra. Now I do want to use the glue on this, but it's going to be kind of hard to glue, from this side, right? So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, and this could be baked or unbaked. It doesn't really matter at this point. It might be easier to add this on if it's already been baked, but it doesn't have to be. So I want to make sure I'm using the glue for the Sculpey, right? The oven bake adhesive. And you can see I just added just a tiny bit of glue onto this side, okay? And I just want a tiny, tiny bit of glue. I don't want a ton of glue, because if I have a ton of glue, it's just gonna like squeeze out all over the place and make blobs and be all funky. And we don't want that. So now that I have the glue on there, I'm just gonna lightly push. Oh, see, and I ended up with just a little bit too much glue. If that happens to you, you can use the corner of your paper towel and just kind of like dab it off. Okay, so squish this on here just a little bit. Try not to change the shape of your coil too much if you can, because we kind of want that nice like rounded edge. Like that's the point of using the coil usually, is the nice rounded edge. So once you have it kind of lightly pressed on there, then do check and see if there's any, glue that did squeeze out. If it's just a little bit, it's fairly easy to clean up. If you went overboard with the glue and there's just a ton of it on there, then it is going to take a little bit longer for cleanup. So that's why I said, be kind of careful with the glue, right? So once you have one side on, then you would just do the same process on the other sides. So, I cut this piece so it's a little bit raggedy, but I want to kind of start with something nice. So I'm going to round it out, and then I'm going to measure and cut. Okay. So I think it would be about there. And like I said before, if your coil doesn't go all the way down, just mix it up with some, more of that same color, so that you can go all the way down one side in one shot. So I would add this side on exactly the same way that I would add the other side on, where I would pick it up and do a little teeny bit of the glue and smush it on. And if you're trying to blend the corners, you can, spend some time just real light, blending it in. You can use a little tool to get in there. You can use your finger to get in there. Or you can, cover it up with a decorative ball on the corner or something. It's just, if you add something extra, just make sure you glue it. Now, speaking of, a more decorative border, if you do want a more decorative border, that can be really nice. So, maybe on the inside here, I'm going to do more of kind of like a dot border. Now, if I make a bunch of really big dots, that's going to use up a lot of clay, and we don't have that much clay. But if I just take a little bit maybe I can do one larger sphere in each inner corner, and then I want to make some smaller ones. So remember, the easiest way to make even little spheres that are the same size is to roll a coil and then cut the same amount off of that coil, and that's going to make sure that all of your little decorative spheres are the same size. So remember, we do still need to add glue onto this, so I would, just like I did on the outside, I would flip it over, just add just a tiny bit of glue, and then I can add on the little spheres like this. So I can add on, a smaller little border in between that bigger border, or I could just do a small border all the way around. I think that actually might look nicer. So I'm glad I haven't glued it yet, because I want to see what it looks like with just the small little border all the way around. But I could do that on this inside, and I could do it on the outside, or I could do it in different areas. Now, depending on, like I said, what you did for the rest of your design on here, like if you did the fish scale pattern that I was talking about earlier, where in your corners you might not have had enough cane to go all the way around, so you might have just a little border, little corner border like this, where there's not anything in between, right? So if you have something like that, you could, as I said before, you could take coils and you could join coils and have coils go all the way down and across in between those. You could take these little spheres and you could make a pebble texture that goes all the way in between. You could alternate between the little pebbles and the little coils and stuff. So you could alternate between those two, or you could do a coil that you roll into a swirl. But remember, the smaller the coil you make, you could continue that swirl, make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and just chop off any little ends that you have. But the smaller the coil, the less clay you're going to use. And then the more clay you have for the next project, right? So those are a couple different ways that you can add on borders or fill in empty spaces in your mirror frame. All right, thanks everybody.